Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 85th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. Today, I will be interviewing Maggie Green. Maggie is a culinary dietitian, cookbook author, cookbook writing coach, and host of the Cookbook Love podcast. Welcome, Maggie. Would you like to share a few words before we get started?
Sure, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm very excited to be here to talk to you and all your listeners today about writing cookbooks and getting them published.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and what you do?
Sure. First thing is, I am a born and bred Kentucky girl. I have a degree in dietetics from the University of Kentucky, and I currently live in Northern Kentucky, just about 5 minutes from downtown Cincinnati. I am the owner and CEO of the Green Apron Company and the author of 4 traditionally published cookbooks, as well as the former editor for The Joy of Cooking and many other well-known trade published cookbooks. And I have been, since about 2015, coaching cookbook writers. And just to give a little bit of a background about that, in 2018, I created the Cookbook Writers Academy. And inside the Cookbook Writers Academy, I offer a program that I developed called Get Paid to Get Published. It's a method and a program where I work with my students to help them get paid to write cookbooks. Because I am on a mission to help food and nutrition experts, dietitians, foodies, avid cooks and bakers to get their dream cookbook not only written, but published.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about selling cookbooks. Can you talk about the different ways that dietitians can sell cookbooks? So like ebooks, self-published, traditional publishing, like diving into all of that.
Sure. I would absolutely love to, because this is what I love to talk about and love to do and help people do. So I think to understand the whole selling of a cookbook, we need to start thinking about if we're going to sell it, we have to have something to sell. And that means that we have to have the cookbook actually written and published. So how do we go about doing something like that? So let's talk about publishing first before we actually, and maybe not even really talk so much about the writing of it, but the actual publishing of it, because the publishing part is what makes us the dietitian or the foodie or the food and nutrition expert that has this product that we can sell people. So there's a few key decisions we need to make or think about. Number one is, what format do you want your book to be in? Mm-hmm. Are you going to publish a print book? Do you want to publish an ebook? Do you want to publish and get published in audio? Because all 3 of these things are possible with one book, or you could just pick one of those avenues alone. So I think that's the first thing to think about is ebook, print, audio, all 3 or just one of them. And then the second thing you have to think about is, do you want to be your own publisher? Meaning, do you want to be the person or the business that self or independently publishes this book? Or do you want to actually work with a company or a publisher publish this for you? And I do have a way to kind of explain these main publishing paths, what they mean, and help everyone kind of understand a little bit more about this whole concept of book publishing. So you want to dive into that for a minute and we can talk about that?
Yeah, let's dive into it.
Okay, great. So if you think about just this big umbrella called publishing, just remember that whenever we talk about publishing, we're talking about making something that we write public. And that could be in the digital or in the print space. Mm-hmm. And today we're specifically talking about cookbooks, okay? But you can publish a lot of things. People publish music, people publish videos, people publish audio files, people publish writing in blogs, people publish writing for other people's blogs, people publish their written work on social media. So publishing really is just making something public, okay? But when it comes to books, and let's think for this particular conversation about wanting to write your cookbook and get it published as a book, either in an ebook or a print book, okay? An audio book is totally possible. And I think the funniest thing about talking about books now is if someone tells you they just read a book like Anna Karenina, you cannot assume that they read it. They maybe listened to it on Audible while they were taking a walk over the course of a month, right? Mm-hmm. I know so many people that consume books through Audible or audiobooks, which is wonderful. I think it makes books be presented in a way that we can't, because, and I don't know if it's our attention span or like to do two things at one time, but we can take a walk and or cook dinner and have an audible book like in the background while we're doing that. And I want you to know that in the context of cookbooks, people have, and I think we're probably going to see, we're on the cusp of a time when people will be doing audio cookbooks as well. Because why not?
Yeah.
We have videos about cooking and things that we do in the kitchen. So why not audio? And I think this is at the very beginning of that. But a lot of these publishers can do ebooks, print books, and audiobooks. Okay, so let's talk about publishing cookbooks. So first we have the big five publishing houses. These are like Simon & Schuster, Penguin, Random House, HarperCollins. Typically you need an agent to have access to these publishers, but they actually take all the financial risk for the publishing. They are the person that takes your not the person, but the business that takes your manuscript, and there's three functions of publishing. It has to be edited, it has to be designed, and it has to be printed. And then of course the marketing and sale of the book. So they assume the cost and the risk for everything that they do related to publishing that book. The benefit for us as dietitians or foodies, if we get a big five publisher for a cookbook, is they take care of all the subsidiary rights, they take care of all the licensing deals. Physical bookstore distribution is always guaranteed. If it has broad, wide, nationwide appeal, you could see your book in Costco, you could see it in Walmart, you could see it in Target, and you have the best chance of getting media coverage and reviews when you work with a big five publisher. Now, a lot of people think I can't get to a big five publisher. I'm not Joanna Gaines or I'm not Ina Garten, but we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but trust me, dietitians have access to information, and so do food and nutrition experts, even if you're not a dietitian. And if you're a big foodie and you have a lot of followers and readers that know you and love you and trust you, you could potentially have access to this type of publishing. And so don't automatically think that this isn't for you just because it's one of the big five, okay? Then the second and kind of third category are these other traditional publishers and university presses. If you have a nonfiction topic, which is what cookbooks are, and if it's a little more specialized or a little bit more mission focused or ideal driven or driven by the food of a particular region, state, culture, or city, you have access to these specialty publishing houses that publish books about certain topics, and they like to publish books about certain topics. My first two cookbooks were about the food of Kentucky. Big surprise, because I was born here, I was raised here. I love the seasons in Kentucky. I love the food we eat in Kentucky. It was the way that I raised my family. It's just the way that I cook, the way that I eat. So my first two books were about Kentucky, both published by these kinds of publishers that fall into this traditional publishing category. One was a university press and one was not. One was a press that had a trade arm. They'd love to publish regional cookbooks. The other one was a publisher that actually reached out to me that wanted to do a book about Kentucky, and they were looking for Kentucky-based food writers to do the work. So this is a very good area for still someone to take care of all the editing, the design, the printing, the distribution, and all the things that a big publisher would, like one of the big five would do, and we don't have to assume the financial risk. So that's like the second and third category. The fourth category then is assisted or hybrid publishing. This is a little bit of a gray area. Sometimes it's called vanity publishing, but what that would mean is if Maggie or Katie had a great idea for a cookbook and they wanted to get it published in print, but they did not want to use a traditional publisher, which I really don't know why people would want to not use a traditional publisher. And this is where I really hope to educate people that there are so many traditional publishers that will publish the book for you and pay you in advance in royalties. But what people think, well, that's not available to me, and it may or may not be, but an assisted or hybrid publisher requires you to pay them. They are a publishing company that publishes books, but the way that they make their money is by the author paying them to create the book for them. There's nothing wrong with this. If you're a large winery, or if you have a very popular, busy hustle bustle bakery, and you want to create a cookbook or a book of menus and wine tasting for your established business, paying $10,000 or $15,000 to have this book printed so you can sell it in your bakery or in your tasting room is not a bad idea. Do you see the difference there?
Yeah.
Your outlet for this book is pretty much your own business. I know someone that she's a dietitian that did a self-published project. She decided that she wanted to use an assisted or hybrid publisher. So there are publishing companies that, just do this. Mm-hmm. And she had a private practice. She had a receptive audience. She had an outlet. And the other people that this works for is people who do public speaking. Now, we're hopefully past COVID and people are getting out and about and starting to do public speaking more and more. But selling books at the back of the room is a very profitable way to sell your book, and to pay a publisher to publish your book. And then that you have not the resources, but the audience that's going to buy the books. Again, it's a very contained, easy place for you to sell books. This assisted or hybrid publishing might make sense for you as well. Yeah. Then that's kind of the third way. The fourth way then is true indie or DIY publishing. So I'm Maggie Green, or you're Katie Dodd. You're writing your own book. You create your manuscript, and then you take off your writer hat and you put on your publisher hat. You are going to be the person and the company that publishes your own book. Now, you can do this through Kindle Direct Publishing. If you want to just do a Kindle version of your book, you can do a self-published print book where you have it edited, designed, and then you find a printer to print your book. Not all of this works fine too. I've worked with a dietitian that did this for her private practice, and she knew someone that did design and they helped her do the layout. She knew someone that did photography. They helped her do the photography. She had a friend that helped her test all the recipes. She owns a nutrition center for a disease specialty. She had the people that were going to buy the book. So for her, she thought it was fun to be her own publisher. She loved the layout. She loved the design. She loved all of those parts that publishers do. And then whenever a private practice client said, hey, I need ideas for menus or I need recipes, she just had this book here that she was able to present to them. So that's true independent or DIY publishing. Now, there's also social sites where you can get published, like Medium or things like that, but that doesn't really do book publishing so much. It's more just a place where you can practice your writing and make it public, but books aren't really part of the picture for that kind of publishing. So again, we have the big five, the other traditional publishing that includes university presses, assisted or hybrid, and then the independent or DIY.
Awesome. I feel like I'm learning so much. This is wonderful.
It is. And, I think, well, let's keep going and talk about this more, because what I want you to hear from me today, if nothing else, is that there is a place for all of us if you want to get published a print book somewhere in this spectrum.
Yeah, there's so many different options. And I loved even how you broke down the roles of the publisher, the, editing, designing, printing, distribute, like all of those pieces. Yes. Sometimes we're focused on, I'm going to make the cookbook, but publishing is how other humans get that cookbook in their hands.
Exactly. And even if we think that we want to be our own publisher, which is fine, I think it behooves us to think about the sale of the book prior to deciding how we want to get published. And think about the situations I just gave you. If you have a private practice or a business where you have a built-in clientele ready and waiting to get these recipes, I can even think of a local specialty market here in Northern Kentucky that has been in business for probably 50 years. They had this beautiful deli. They sell all of these salads, and at special times of the year, like Kentucky Derby's coming up, they sell this dip called Benedictine. I know for a fact, if this market ever decided to publish a cookbook with all their recipes, they have built-in audience. They probably could do an assisted hybrid or an independent job and sell their books with no problem, because their audience is right there, ready and waiting to buy them. But I had that, but I wanted it to have broader distribution. Think about that too. Think about the opportunity, like you believe in your topic so much and you love it so much. And my first 2 books about Kentucky, totally the way I felt about it, but it needed to get out of my neighborhood and out of my business, the Green Apron Company, because I don't have people like walking through the door to come buy food or to come listen to me speak or whatever. I needed a publisher to help me get the word out about my book. I had to be a partner in that, but they knew exactly what to do. They had buy-ins with all the state park gift shops all across the state. They had access and paid for me to go to the Kentucky Book Fair, the Southern Kentucky Book Writers Festival. So see, that's what a publisher does for you if you don't have the built-in audience.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, can we dive into maybe some of the benefits for dietitians to sell a cookbook? I would
love to talk about the benefits, because what's the purpose of doing this if we can't see the benefit, right? So why a print cookbook? Why would someone even want to think about this? I believe a print cookbook is the most portable meaning you can take it with you, profitable and repeatable way for you to share your food and nutrition message with your people. People love to buy cookbooks. People love to check cookbooks out of the library. Some people just buy cookbooks to read them. Cookbooks are tangible, and so is cooking. Last time I checked, we cannot eat 90%, well, I'd say it's even more than that. 95% of people get their nutrition through food. It's a tangible act of preparation in eating, food that we can touch, taste, smell, hear, all the good things about food. And people love to read cookbooks. So hello, if you have a nutrition message, make it more fun through a cookbook, even if they never cook anything out of it.
Yeah.
I think cookbooks are a beautiful way to present nutrition messages. And if you become a minor celebrity when you publish a cookbook and you accomplish something that some people only dream about, but never really do. You can give them as gifts, you can give them to fundraisers, you can share your work and your love and your knowledge about whatever it is with other people for their benefit. So those are what I think the benefits of writing a print cookbook are.
Awesome. That's great. So how can a dietitian actually get paid to write a cookbook, and what should they know before pursuing this endeavor?
Okay. So 2 things I want dietitians specifically to know. And if you're listening to this and you're not a dietitian, if you have any expertise in the food, culinary, baking, nutrition world, just listen up. Number 1, the 3 topics that sell the most when it comes to books that people buy are about health, wealth, and relationships. Okay, so when it comes to health, and when it comes to our money, and when it comes to connection with people, I can't think of anything more than a meal or food or cooking or nutrition that kind of tie into all 3 of those categories. And even if you just want to talk about budgeting and you want to talk about being a better grocery shopper and feeding your family on a certain amount of food, that ties into the wealth category. People are really interested in how they can save and spend their money better, especially with inflation in the grocery store. Be the person that talks to them about that. Say, I get it, I've been there, and let's talk about this. Relationships and connections over the dinner table cannot be beat. I believe healthy families are built on that. Families of all shapes and sizes, of neighbors and friends, children, grandparents. Let's get everybody to the dinner table. And then the third thing is our health. What we eat, what we put into our own physical bodies affects everything that we do, from our hair to our skin, to our fingernails, to our teeth, to our weight. I mean, everything is related to food. So, and all of that can relate to cooking as well. And in cookbooks and in food books that have pictures and recipes, I just think it's a great outlet. So that's the first thing. The second thing is publishers do not write their own books. Publishers need writers. Publishers would have blank books if it wasn't for people like us that wrote the content for them. Publishers aren't in business to write the books. They're in business to publish. So please remember that when we start to think, oh, I couldn't do this and it's not for me. And no, food, nutrition, cooking, baking, huge opportunities. People always need to eat. I think that's the most fascinating thing about food and eating is it's the one thing that we all need and cannot live without.
Yeah.
And publishers need writers to provide content about that. And then we think, well, a couple of years ago, so-and-so wrote a book about that. I can't do it. But you guys, new people are always entering the market looking for a book. There is someone on Amazon right now searching for a book to help them with their new diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome. Right now, they're looking for you. Are you out there? And the book, it's portable. They can take your way to help them into their kitchen and get rid of ingredients they can't use anymore, stock their pantry with things they can use. You can have a couple of menus for what they maybe could have served for Easter or what they can think about serving for a graduation party. You see, because people's cooking takes place in events over the course of their life. You could be the IBS dietitian that helps people, plan menus for special events, because I know what I'm trying to say is there's just so many opportunities. I firmly believe when it comes to food and cooking, the number of topics and iterations on that topic are endless, and publishers aren't going to create the content. The editors at publishing houses today are looking for people to fill their list. So we're in the spring of 2022, they're looking forward to their list for the spring of 2023 and the fall of 2023. And who is out there sending them proposals, and who are the agents bringing to them that maybe would be a book that they want to publish next year. So those are the two things I think that a dietitian needs to hear, is that it's totally possible. And they're looking for us, and they excuse me, they need us, and we have such a great topic to write about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said when you said they're looking for you. And I hope that people listening hear that. There are publishers, there are people out there looking for you and the ideas that you have in your head. And so I absolutely love that. I was actually at a nutrition conference in 2019, and a dietitian was talking about corporate wellness. And she used the exact same phrase, they're looking for you. She was talking about businesses looking for dietitians. But when she said that, it's like she spoke directly to my soul, thinking about entrepreneurship. I'm like, oh, they are looking for me. I need to figure out what they're looking for. But I do hope that that's a takeaway people hear, is that they are looking for you. And if you want to write a cookbook, my goodness, it is so possible. So
yeah, it's people think about, I was just thinking, like, over the past 24 hours, how many times I've sat down to my computer to get the answer to a question or to look for something that I need. Our computers are the places that our phones, the places that we're turning to get these questions answered. And you can be the answer to someone's question, and you can build a presence and be that person and position yourself as that person. And then the book is a perfect offshoot of that. Like I said, people love to read cookbooks. There are people that at night, that's how they relax. Can you imagine them relaxing with your book, reading about whatever it is that you want to talk about in the world? So it's not like they only use them when they need to get dinner on the table. Cookbooks really are consumed in a lot of unusual ways. And one other thing about a cookbook is people don't have a linear relationship with a cookbook. I read Where the Crawdads Sing, and I picked it up and I started at the beginning and I read to the end. I saved the book though, because I would love to read it again. I'm probably going to go see the movie this summer. But if someone uses my cookbook, they develop a relationship with it. And because they develop a relationship with my cookbook, they unknowingly develop a relationship with me. I cannot tell you how many times I've been out in my local community and people tell me how much they use my cookbook. And see, they turn to it over and over and over again, maybe for only a few recipes, but still they have a relationship with that book. And then their children and their family develop a relationship with our recipes. And the fun part about it is those recipes get incorporated then into what they do as a family on a yearly basis. Maybe every 4th of July, they make the potato salad from my cookbook. And they might be one of the things, but everybody starts to, where'd you get the recipe? Where'd that come from? And they'll tell people, and then they're selling books for me. So I just can't reiterate that enough. And that's one thing about nonfiction as opposed to fiction, is this relationship that people develop, not only with the content, but with the author of the book through repeated use over and over and referring to it over and over again.
Awesome. Well, I know that we have something exciting planned for Dietitian Side Hustler listeners. So can you share more about the free masterclass that you are going to be offering for our listeners?
Yes, I would love to. And mark your calendars, everybody, because on Tuesday, May the 3rd at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, which is 5:00 p.m. Pacific. And I don't know, wherever else you're listening from, go to a really good time converter, but it's at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to host, me and Katie together, a free training for anybody that wants to learn how to get paid to write a cookbook. And my focus is so that if you want to get paid to write a cookbook, but you really don't want to be the person that spends your own money to edit the book and lay it out and do all the marketing and promotion alone, this training is for you. I'm going to talk about two big things. The three biggest mistakes that I see cookbook writers make, and some of them I made myself when I was starting my cookbook writing journey. And I think sometimes I want you to learn from my mistakes, because I think it will fast track you to success when you learn a little bit about what not to do. And then I'm going to cover my exact 4-step process that I created, the get paid to get published method. So you will leave this training know exactly what not to do and what's required if you want to get paid to write a cookbook, which is to get a traditional publishing contract. And I think the best news I have for anybody that wants to do that, and a little teaser about coming to the training, is you don't have to write your whole manuscript to get a cookbook contract in advance. An advance is advance of royalties. You can get that without writing your whole manuscript. So why not try if you have an idea for a cookbook? And we'll talk in the training about exactly what you would need to do to get a publisher or an agent or an editor at a publishing house interested in your work. And you can register for that by going to www.cookbookwritersacademy.com and then /register_Katie. Cookbookwritersacademy.com, register_Katie. And Katie, I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes so people can link to that as well.
Yep, I'll put it in the show notes. And if you follow me on social or an email, I'll be blasting it out there too. Well, I am so excited for the training. And this has been such a wonderful conversation. And I've really enjoyed learning all of this myself. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can people find you online?
Well, first of all, you're very welcome. I'm happy to talk about this topic. And I think thinking about writing a book as a side hustle it's perfect. Sometimes we think side hustles are, I don't know what people really think that they are, but you totally could have a full-time job and write a cookbook on the side, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's not like you have to be a full-time writer or devote all of your time to writing this cookbook. It's going to be intense for 6 to 9 months once you actually get a contract. But think about it. If you're in the kitchen anyway, and you're cooking anyway, why not use that time to create content for your book? So thank you so much for having me. You can connect in 2 places. I have a free Facebook group that anyone is invited to join. It's called The Confident Cookbook Writer. And then I also am on Instagram at Green Apron.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys, I have been working hard behind the scenes to make the Blogging Accelerator program even bigger and better than ever. I cannot wait to release more information for you guys, but if you want to be the first to know, be sure to head on over to bloggingacceleratorprogram.com and get on the wait list.